Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Game. Today, I have a special guest from Lebanon. Amazing story. We have climbed and spent so much time outdoors. We met 7, 8 years ago here in Dubai doing outdoor activities. Ramy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
glad
Daniel.
to have you here. You're just passing by a few days in Dubai, so I'm lucky to found a spot in
I
Reddit.
literally landed like 10 hours ago.
Nice.
And here I am. So it's no, it's
Nice.
great to be with you. It's great to be back in Dubai. It's great to be in this incredible venue. Thank you for having me back. And yes, it's been I think 8 years now. So
Yeah,
it's a long
yeah.
time.
So I was talking with the team to see like who should we invite to the show and who can motivate people, because the idea, as I mentioned to you, is to motivate kids, teenagers, and parents to be more active, to be outdoors, to do sports. And since we are a venue for sports, I said, okay, I told CJ, I have someone in mind that doesn't necessarily do competition sports, but it's very active and it's been doing some crazy expeditions and changing lives. I think that's the most important. So tell us a bit your story. Tell us what happened.
And then the rest was history.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I'm Lebanese. My mother is actually Libyan. And I was born in the UK, so a little bit of a mixed background. And my parents, they met in the mountains, actually, and skiing was a big part of their initial kind of time together. So when my brother and I were born, that became something that was really important to them. So my parents had me on skis. I was 2 years and 9 months old, and they were very religious about it. So it was one full month of skiing every year.
Okay.
It was something that, whether the weather was good, bad, didn't matter. And in the beginning, it was a struggle, of course, for kids, but we learned how to love it. We learned to really appreciate it. And it went beyond just a sport. It became something that was family time. Like when I look back at my life and I think what were my happiest moments, it was with my family on the slopes, on our skis, in this line of, my father at the front, my mother behind him, me, and then my little brother. And it invokes such strong positive emotion. And I think that's something that is that has activated a lot of things in my life. Of course, I grew up, I became a teenager. Skiing was a big part of my life, I would say, up until I was 15, 16 years old. And then I became a teenager. I did what all teenagers do, which is I started to, eat a lot of junk food. This was in my generation. We didn't have, the phones and all of that. So it was mostly hanging out.
Yeah.
Alcohol eventually kind of played a part of every teenager's life at some point. It happens. I started to smoke cigarettes, and what was different between me and my friends, especially at this point in my life, was that my metabolism was slower. So I'd eat the same things as you, but I was just getting bigger. And I started to fall into this space of, well, this is who I am. I'm this person who's just bigger. I'm not as healthy. And it stayed with me. It stayed with me for a while. And I graduated. I went to law school. I finished law school. I went into consulting. I moved around in different places. I did a lot of internships. At one point, I wanted to be a diplomat, and I was taking all these internships at the UN and things, in this kind of very, I would say, acceptable space. Like this is kind of the expectation, is where, especially in my society, where you would end up is like something in this space. I graduated. I had an undergrad. I graduated post-grad, but I was fundamentally unhappy. At this point, I was 110 kilos, smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. That's the thought of that right now is outrageous to me. I felt like everything was stacked against me. My metabolism is too slow. I can't stop smoking. I can't do this, can't do that. And unhappy with my choices about my career path and all of that. And then I had a moment, and this was particular to me. I don't think it happens like this for most people, but with me, this is what happened, which is that I woke up in the middle of the night. I remember exactly where I was. I was in London. I was in my apartment. I had this vertical mirror next to my bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was thinking, I want a cigarette. And when you're, in your early 20s, sleep is sacred. So to interrupt sleep for a cigarette,
Yeah.
that's like, That's a huge watershed moment. And I think that was the first time I realized, especially as a young adult, that I don't have time. It's not about, like, when you're a kid, you think I have time. I've got, I can start smoking and stop smoking. I can start drinking and stop drinking. I can take a career path that I don't particularly enjoy, but eventually I kind of realized in that moment that something had to change. And so I took a hard right turn. And what I wanted to do when I took that hard right turn, the first thing I thought was, I want to go back to the mountains. I want to go back to skiing. I went to my safe, like the place in my mind that is my safe place. It's where I felt most alive as a child. It was in the mountains, and that was the first thing I did. I went with a friend. We went for a week of skiing. My legs were totally jelly, but whatever, you know. I got started. I started running. I started trying to just be outside, not necessarily outdoors. I was still living in London, but I wanted to be outside. And I started to see the results of that. And that kind of inspired a lot of other changes that eventually led to where I am today, which is I run an adventure travel company. It's called Life Happens Outdoors. The whole aim of what we try to do is we try to inspire people to see in themselves what they themselves can't see, and what other people certainly won't see, which is this strength that we all have to take control, to have agency, and to go out and do things in the world that make us happy and make us feel complete. And for me, it was the outdoors, and that's why I believe in that so much. It might not be the same for everybody, but at least from my perspective, I want to offer the opportunity for everyday individuals, people who never in a million years thought they would be able to walk, go to Kilimanjaro or dog sled in Norway to see the Northern Lights, or just do something epic, something beautiful, something that they'll always remember, and something that will inspire them to see their lives differently, and maybe bring some of that energy back into where they live, here in Dubai, elsewhere in the world, into their families, into their careers, into their choices. And that can only make things better for everybody. And that was the whole idea behind Life Happens Outdoors, which we started at first in 2015, but really I would say our first year was 2017 when we really kind of got started. And Dubai is our home, where we got started. This is where it all began for us. And we're forever grateful to the people who initially trusted us and thought this would be a great idea, even when we didn't think it was, like, what? Why are you trusting us? But we had something that people saw, we had a message that people could understand that wasn't about, fist pumping and high fiving and look how cool I am hanging off the side of the mountain with two fingers, but rather, come up here and experience this sunrise on Kilimanjaro and just accept what it is that it's going to show you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's what it is being outdoors. Is you get to, it's a mirror to yourself, and you get to see all these things, and then what you do with those things is what defines you later on in life. And I think that's what's been so powerful. And now hundreds of expeditions and trips and adventures down the line, the common denominator that we see, especially amongst first time joiners, people who are coming to us for the very first time, they're all at that wake up in the middle of the night moment, but in different ways. Some of them are thinking about changing careers, and this could be they're looking for the strength, or maybe they've just started a new career and they're looking for inspiration. Maybe they just got married, maybe they just got divorced, maybe they just had a child, maybe their child just left the house. Like there tends to be this right turn in people's lives where they say, I want to go and experience something like this because it's going to bring something meaningful into my life and help me. And that's ultimately what Life Happens Outdoors is about. It's not about the summits. It's not about the race. It's not about being the first. It's not about being in opposition to somebody else. It's about finding that thing that animates you, bringing it back into your life, and having it, benefit you, and through you, the people around you, your career choices, your family, your life.
Yeah, I think you guys are changing lives. As you change your life, when you woke up in the middle of the night, said, okay, I need a change. Now you're helping people to change, right? Because you face people in different stage of their life. As you mentioned, everyone has their own story,
right,
or their own challenges, or their own goals to achieve. Well, let's go back a little bit. Did you feel like you're like a bit away from the parents, or how was this relationship? Were they pushing you to keep skiing, or they were like, do whatever you want? Are they like doing? motivating you to be active, to do sports, or you felt that was a bit different from the young age to teenage?
When you're younger, like your parents make the decisions, right? And you don't really, you may have you have opinions, but you don't really have control over your daily life. Your parents really make all those choices for you. When you become a teenager, you start to push back, right? It's normal. And especially me, I was a difficult teenager.
Yeah.
Man, I always think, I'm like, if I have a kid like me, straight to the military, like from the ages of 13 to 18. I was the kind of kid who I had the answer to everything. I knew everything. Like, come on, whatever you want, And simultaneously, I was disintegrating a little bit. And my parents, they were aware of it, but they also had to tread a fine line. And I'm so appreciative to them for for understanding this, especially in those days where information wasn't as available as it is today. They understood that I had to make my mistakes. They got that, and they understood my character. They understood that if they told me don't jump on the bed, I'm going to do it. I'm going to break my hand, and then I'm not going to do it again. And so they would let me. And that's such a difficult thing, especially for a mother, to be like, you know what? I have to let him kind of go and hurt himself. So they knew I smoked, and they told me, like, they knew, but they never really pushed too hard, because they understood that, especially in those teenage years, you're going to push back, and it can be a little bit difficult. So you got to give the kids some space to have the ability to make some mistakes. And they did that for me, and it worked out in the end. They did try a little bit to kind of encourage me, and they wanted me to get back into skiing. They wanted me to get into any sports, but I wasn't having it, and they kind of made their peace with that a little bit. That space gave me the opportunity to go into these dark places, but at least they were around. So they could set the parameters without me really understanding that they were still putting the borders up. And I could go and explore a little bit and come back. And I credit them fully for being able to do that, because hindsight is 2020. At that time, I didn't think that. I thought, hey, I'm going into these dark places. But now that I look back on it and I really dissect it, I realize that they did a lot to make sure that I could explore these places, but also that it wouldn't be terminal. I wouldn't go over the edge. I think I would say they did a really good job in kind of giving me that opportunity to explore, and to in places that they didn't necessarily want me to go to, but that inevitably us as human beings will have to see. There is darkness in the world, there is challenge in the world, there are difficulties in the world, and we're all going to see that at some point. And I think it's important for parents to recognize that, and to be able to support their children as they go through that, and not protect them fully from it, because one day they're going to see it, and it's probably better that they see it while you're around than when you're not. And I really credit my parents for that. I can't even interpret how things turned out any other way. I think the best dynamic, like if you want to look at me right now, like I'm somebody who does, I'm up on expedition all the time. I'm climbing mountains. I'm very, very healthy physically, and also I'd say quite headstrong in the space that I have to work in. But there's a picture of me in a shopping cart, like that, drunk. And a friend of mine is trying to put the cart onto the bus in London. And I was at that point, I was probably like 19 or 20 years old. And it's incredible, the contrast of where I was and where I am. And I'm not saying that that's the path, but I am saying that in my life, everything that happened had to happen exactly as it did for me to be sitting in this chair talking to you. So I can't look back and say that was a terrible thing that should never have happened. No, it happened, and I'm here because of it. So I think being in the mountains, being in sports, it's like when you're playing football, or you're playing paddle, and you're losing the game. You're losing the game.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you throw the racket and you never play again? Or does it mean, or do you just stop the game and you say, I'm done, that's it? No, absolutely not. You play the game as best you can, and then you try to come back again, and you play harder, not to beat the other guy, to beat yourself, to do better today than you did yesterday, to go that one step further. So you had to have hit the bottom to be able to start to climb up, to start to go up. And so that's why I look back at these moments in time. And I remember when I was younger, I did this thing where I deleted all my photos. Like, I don't want to remember what I looked like when I was 110 kilos. And now I look for these pictures because
Yeah.
these are my most powerful moments. Like, this is one of the big defining factors of why I am the way I am today.
And keeps you motivated as well, right? So you said you were not happy.
Yes.
Who was happy?
Who was happy? Look, my parents
Because
were definitely happy. That's for sure. And my father in particular was definitely happy. And actually, for the longest time, when I stopped law and I started to do this, he would introduce me as his son, the lawyer, who now walks in the mountains. You know, so he would say, "My son, the lawyer," his chest would open, and then who walks in the mountains. You know, and he kind of. So it was a difficult pill to swallow at first. But look, my parents never very overtly pressured me. And this is something that's, I think, a lot of people, especially in our community, will understand. It's like, it's an unwritten rule, right? It's an unwritten pressure. It's not there. It's not in your face, but you know that you'll be disappointing if you aren't a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. You know, these are the Lebanese subjects, right?
It's not very different from Brazil.
100%. You know, and then of course, like, okay, business person, yes, but you don't really have to study that. You know, you can learn it later on. That's like the typical story. And you know, you're never going to get away with like history of art or any of those subjects. I would say that a large part of my going down that route was to do what everybody in my society was doing and to do what is right. Like, as far as I could understand right from wrong at that point in time. So I would definitely say there was pressure. And then there were other pressures that kept me there because, you know, once you're on a path, and especially if you're good at it, like the thing about studying is that you can be really good at something and still not like it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could be really good at maths and just not enjoy it. You could be really good at physics. You could be really good at engineering. In my case, I was good. I liked what I did. Like, I liked that I was good at it. I didn't like it, but I liked that I was good at it. And I kind of started to envision myself, you know, what this life is going to look like. And even though it made sense to me, there was always this cringe in my chest, this kind of this pressure that where you felt like, okay, I'm martyring myself on the altar of this expectation that first came to me from society, but now is of me on myself. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will find themselves, you know, well into their 30s and 40s and still feel like that's the space that they exist in. And it's difficult. And I understand the pressure to stay. Actually, I sometimes, in some instances, I would encourage people to stay because it is, you know, in my case, it was very particular. I had the opportunity to leave. I was in the right space in terms of my head, my mind, where I was at. I had no dependence. So I didn't have to think about whose mouths I had to feed.
Yeah.
I had parents who were relatively young and could support this move. And so I was able to take this decision, and I don't take that for granted. I don't take it for granted because a lot of people will, you know, there's this Instagram fantasy and this TikTok fantasy of, you know, I quit my job to pursue my passion. It's like, yeah, well, you also have to pursue what puts, you know, food in your belly and you know, and a roof over your head. And I wasn't stupid about it. Like, I understood that I had to have a plan. I had to do something. I had to make a change. And that's where the work starts. It doesn't start with taking that decision. It starts when you decide that, like, that's the moment. That's it. It's like, okay, I've now decided to take on this entirely different burden that I have no idea, you know, I have no idea what's on the other side of this. And I'm going to go and explore it. I'm going to take it seriously, and I'm willing to sacrifice for it. That's a tremendous responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you can just decide, you know.
Yeah, to start your own business in a market that's not easy. Not many people can do it. You have like a guarantee job, let's say the paycheck, and then from nowhere you give up on that. So okay, I'm gonna start. I think that's the importance of the parents to let the kids, teenagers or young adults, to try. And this, I feel these days now that we are living, it's becoming a challenge. The relationship between parents and teenagers and kids, how much they can push or how much should them give freedom with Instagram, TikTok, all the social media that these teenagers they want to be YouTubers and make millions, and they think all of them can do it. We face here a lot of parents telling us it's so difficult to bring my kid to do sports because they just want to be on their phone or playing video game or just chatting with their friends. So taking them outdoors in the mountains or just exploring nature can change life. So for you, when you went back skiing with a friend, how long it took for you to decide, okay, that's it. I don't want this corporate life anymore. And the second question would be, did you have the name, the logo, or the idea in your mind, or you first you gave up and say, okay, now I need to work on a new plan?
How long do we have here?
Well,
Story.
how long do we have, CJ? Hello, okay.
I'll limited time. All right, you can crop this as much as you like, but I think the story is important because people have the impression that, I'm working at a multinational here in Dubai. I switched that off and I switched this on, and it's not linear at all. And to answer all of your questions, no, 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 and no. Basically, that's the short answer. I didn't have a name. I didn't have a logo. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know I was going to be in this space. When I first went back to skiing, it didn't even just immediately lead to me changing jobs or thinking about something different. It just triggered a newfound joy, something that made me happy. And I didn't know where this was going to take me, but I wanted to explore this emotion. I wanted to explore this feeling further. And it led me to where I am today, but I made a lot of mistakes along the way. So I left law school and went into consulting, thinking the problem was law. But I still, I wanted to be in this space. And then I'm like, okay, the problem isn't consulting. The problem is the country that I'm in. And I was living in London at the time. So I moved to Libya, and I thought this would be a great opportunity. It was post-revolution. There are opportunities over there. I went through all kinds of incredible stories that happened to me and to my partner over there, including a carjacking, a couple of gunpoint moments, a kidnapping. We went through a lot of difficult stuff. And it was only after 4 years in Libya and then leaving and deciding I don't want to go back to London. I don't want to go back to that life that I got away from, and that I was forced into a very dark place, that life happens outdoors kind of came to life, and it came to life by accident. I met a friend from school. I was in Lebanon, and he took me surfing. I didn't know there was surfing in Lebanon. I'm
Yeah, I
somebody who
didn't know
knows.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There's surfing in Lebanon. Great place, by the way. You should check it out. In G and Batum, fantastic. And so I thought, oh, this is a brilliant place. I got to meet the community over there, and so I started talking to this friend from school, and we came up with this idea together to develop like an app that helps you find these things. And that was the first kind of step into this outdoor space that was like a commercial idea. We tried to work on it for a year, didn't work out.
Mhm.
So here already. So this is where we are. I went skiing, 22 years old. I've been to Libya. I've been kidnapped, carjacked. I've started an app. It fell apart. Like you see, this is what I mean by it's not linear. And then we stopped working together. But I used to always say life happens outdoors. And when we were working together, I wanted to name that company Life Happens Outdoors. And there was friction over whether it's a slogan or a name of a company. So when we stopped working together, the first thing I did, without knowing what I'm going to do as a company, I registered the name Life Happens Outdoors, and I bought the domain name, and I had no idea what we were going to do. I had no idea what this company was going to be. And we started doing all kinds of things. We tried to redevelop the app concept, didn't work. We tried to go down the road of being like an online store for outdoor gear. That like wasn't really interesting. We even went into outdoor like film videography and stuff like that, in like difficult, challenging spaces, which we kind of still do a little bit of. But we do them mostly as documentary films for our own brand. And then finally, it was 2018. So remember, LHO 2015, 2017, we did our first trip because we actually ran out of money. And that's why we started our first trip. 2018, December, I'm with a guy called Ahmed Sami, who I credit every day and I'll credit for the rest of my life, who had been with me to Kilimanjaro in March of that year, made it by the skin of his teeth, and decides he wants to come back with his two boys.
I remember that story. Yeah.
13 and 15. And on the summit night, he struggles. He gets severely dehydrated, and we have to turn around. And it was like the story was amazing. I had these two boys, 13, 15. They see their father vulnerable. They have to become the men all of a sudden. You should check out the documentary. It's on our website. You can watch the whole thing. It's an incredible story. But basically, he grabs a hold of my arm, and we do this walk all the way down because they wanted to go all the way back to the gate. So we had an 8-hour day that day. And for 8 hours, Ahmed kept telling me, Ramy, you idiot. Life happens outdoors should be this. What you guys do and the way that you explain the outdoors and the way you make people love it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. This is what you should be doing. And for 8 hours, he hammered that into my head. And so I get down to the bottom of the mountain. I call my team back home and I'm like, guys, drop it all. Drop the app, drop the website, drop the store.
I have the plan.
I have the plan. And that's how life happens outdoors, the way we know it today, started. And that's why I tell you it's not linear. And we've constantly tweaked and changed, and COVID came and we had to, but it isn't, the story doesn't go, I had the courage and I took a chance and everything worked out and it was wonderful. No. It's you have the courage, you take the chance, and then the work starts there. And that's the beauty of it. I'm not saying this to discourage people. I'm saying this so that people find the beauty in that challenge. They take it head on. When it doesn't work out the first time, you go again. You go again. You go again. You show up to the paddle. The first time you swing at the ball, maybe the racket hits flies out of your hand and hits the person by accident. Come back. This time, hold the racket. Next time, hit the ball.
Yeah.
The time, try to get it over the net. And eventually, you're playing paddle, or you're playing any other sport, or you're achieving something in life, or you're achieving something in business. And this is really why, this is what it's all about. And sorry I took so long to explain the story, but I wanted to make this point.
It's great for everyone to know, because I was going to ask when it really start, Life Happens Outdoors, the year and how, but now we know.
Now you have the answer.
So would you say that life is a big mountain that you don't expect? You have done, I don't know how many climbs, expeditions, but you never know. Like, you can plan, you have everything, you have a lot of experience. You go on the bottom of the mountain, you look up, I know what's going to happen, I know what's going to, but on the way there, you need to adapt, you need to change, you need to face another challenge. And I think your life has been a big mountain, ups and downs, but I would say now you keep climbing and you don't see the top.
When I give the first briefing to our climbers when we're going to Kilimanjaro, and think about Kilimanjaro, it's a freestanding mountain, so you just see this gigantic base and it shoots up into the sky. And the town that we stay in when we all meet up for the first time is called Moshi, and Moshi's right at the bottom. So when the clouds aren't there, it's like this gigantic, huge thing above your head. And although I've been to Kilimanjaro almost 30 times now, every time I land, I look at it, I'm like, oh, what is that? That is huge. And I tell everybody in my very first briefing, and I always make it a point to stand in a place in this big grass area in the hotel that we stay in where you can see the mountain behind us. And the first thing I say is, that is impossible. Look at it. It's impossible. From here, it is impossible. But in 7 days' time, you're going to be on the top of that, and it's going to be possible. And you want to know how we do that? We take it one step at a time. We take it one challenge at a time. Everything, Burj Khalifa is impossible. If you take it and you just think about it in your head without ever taking any steps, it's an impossible feat to achieve.
Yeah.
But then you get the planners, the engineers, the financiers, the the different elements and aspects that are going to eventually the right person who does the steel work, the person for the, and eventually all the different challenges slowly become overcome. And what you have is the highest tower in the world. You have people who have never imagined in a million years that they can walk up a flight of stairs, stand 5,895 meters above sea level on the summit of the highest mountain in Africa, and bawl their eyes out, not because they're exhausted. Of course, exhaustion is a part of it. Not because they're so, look at me, and look at my biceps and how big they are, because they can't believe. They can't believe what it is that they had inside of them. And all of this is to tell you that the mountain is not a real thing. Burj Khalifa is not a real thing. It's somebody's imagination.
Yeah.
And there it is. The mountain is not a real place. It's somebody's imagination. It's what you take with you. So when the people are up on the summit and they're crying, each person's crying for something completely different. I have no idea what it is. What I'm there, why I'm there. Every time I climb, 30 climbs, 30 different times I cry, 30 different reasons. Maybe 1,000 different reasons that are 30 times different over, like just because it's what you take to the mountain. It's what the mountain is, what you make of it. So yes, life is absolutely a mountain. Life, because at the end of the day, none of this incredible place that you've built over here, this is your imagination. It's your mountain.
Yeah.
You made it. And you gave it its worth. You gave it its value. It's worth something to you and not to the person sitting next to you, not to me. It's something different to me. It's beautiful. It's cute. It's nice. I like the colors, but for you, it's your mountain.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, everybody has their mountain. Everybody has their mountain to climb. And I know it's a cliche to say it, but it's the truth. And when I say, a mountain, what I really mean is the challenges that you have in your life and the value that you attribute to that challenge and the outcome of that challenge.
Yeah, that was going to be 30 times in Kilimanjaro, many different people. Each of them have a different outcome. When they finish, you go down with them, there are different changes in their life, right? Different impact, different feelings.
They're different people.
I don't know if we can guarantee that 100% for the better, but I think 99.9 would change for the better.
Even if people in that moment in time, we've had, like, over the years, we've had difficult people. We have a lot of great people and easy people to work with, but we do get difficult people, and it's normal. Like, we're all humans and we have our own things, and I don't judge one way or the other. I for one know that I was a difficult person at one point in my life. Maybe I still am to some people. But what I see is that even if somebody outwardly would tell you Kilimanjaro was a terrible experience, it still has some sort of impact on their life, even if they can't see it in this moment. And even if they might never attribute something positive later on in their life through that. But I guarantee you that if you scale it back, you peel that onion, you'll find that this challenge, Kilimanjaro or something else, I say Kilimanjaro just because it's such a common trip for us, but any of these other things that we do, if you peel it back, you'll find that there was something there that triggered something in them that could only be positive. Because when you're out there, there is nothing there. Like, this is, one time we were climbing Island Peak. And I had a guy, his name is Roberto. He's a pilot with Emirates, 777 captain now. And we went to I was with another person, Haneen, also lives in Dubai. And he was climbing ahead with the guide. He reaches the summit of Island Peak, and I'm a little bit below on the ridge. And I see his guide, his name is Yeti Lakpa, and the name tells you everything. He's like a Yeti. He's got a big beard, big hair. He's quite a famous climber over there. And he's on the summit, and he's rolling a cigarette at 6,100 and whatever meters, while Roberto is on his knees and praying to his God and so thankful and so grateful and so whatever. And this contrast in moments was so interesting for me, because it's, at the end of the day, it's a pile of rock and ice. It's what it means to you. It's what
Yeah.
you bring to it that gives it meaning, you know? And here were two people, they experienced the same mountain in the same way, on the same day, on the same rope, having two completely different experiences, having it mean two completely different things to them. And I was observing this thing, and I thought that's such an interesting, because it's such an extreme contrast.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember him telling Roberto, he said, "Roberto, get up. There is nothing here. Only mountain." and it's true. There's nothing there. But then at the
Yeah.
same time, there's everything there. You know,
Because it's not only going up in the mountains, the preparation mentally, physically. Like you don't decide I'm going to Kilimanjaro next month and that's it. No, I'm sure you have to guide them. By the time they contact you or your team, say, I want to do this. Okay, this is the preparation.
right?
2-3 months before, when we get there, it's not like, okay, backpack and go.
Yes.
No, then it's going to become a bad experience.
Exactly.
So you need to guide them to achieve. And not everyone wants to take that consistency of preparation to get there. Because people think, oh, Kilimanjaro, I can do it.
Those are my favorites.
Right?
People who show up saying, yeah, it's an easy mountain. Those are the ones who suffer the most.
Have you taken your parents in any of the...
I have not taken my parents to any of the big trips. No, I haven't. I've taken, but I do still ski with my dad.
Okay.
I actually skied with him like 3 months ago.
Nice.
And it was such a nice moment because my dad is over 70 now. And just being able to have that experience. And we were skiing and you could see the Matterhorn in the background. And that mountain is super important to me because when we were 10 years old, when I was 10 years old, I told him one day I'm going to climb that. And here we are, and I'm skiing and I'm getting his picture with the Matterhorn in the background while he's still able to complete some pretty impressive turns, I have to say, you know, for somebody who's, you know, he's worried as well to fall. He doesn't want to hurt himself. But just being able to share the slope with him after all these years is everything to me. And my only hope in life is to be able to have the same experience with my kids one day. That's it. That's the goal. That's my goal.
It's unique. You know, there's no money in the world that can pay that. Let's say the reason for you to be able to do this today is because 30 years ago, 35 years ago, him and your mom put you there. So I think this relationship, it's very important.
They thought it was a great idea. Like 36 years ago, they thought, you know what's a great idea? Let's put this kid on this thing that's heavier than him and just see what happens.
They didn't imagine that you're going to be living in the mountains, right?
Maybe in hindsight, they wouldn't have done it. I don't know.
Do you think if you had someone to guide you when you were in university, because you made the decision by yourself, no one took your hand, said, Ramy, come here. You are in the wrong path. I need to show you the right path. You made the decision alone. And one night you decide, okay, I need to make the change. Do you feel, because you did this alone, you feel like now you're guiding those that they don't have? Because let's say you were lucky that you had this click, but not everyone. Some people take time, or some people never had this click. So when I say you're changing lives, that's what I have in my mind, because you're guiding people to make, and it's never late. Can be someone when you had 19 that is facing the same now, not happy, alcohol, cigarette, overweight, or someone that is 30, 35, 40, 55 that needs to make the change. So
I had a guy who was 70 with 2 hip replacements on the summit of Kilimanjaro. So there is no age
limit.
Look, absolutely. When I was 16, 17, even while I was going into these darker places, I always wished that I had friends or people around me that were willing to do because what I wanted to do more than anything else was go up to the mountains and explore. I wanted to explore. I used to make up stories when I was that age, just to pretend like I was exploring. And I always wished that I had people around me that could go with me and do these things. And so when we started Life Happens Outdoors, that was a big part of it. It was the idea that, a lot of people want to do this, but they have nobody to go with. They have nobody to show them the way. They have nobody their heroes are all superheroes. I climbed this and I'm the first person to do that. And, they're the untouchables. And I wanted to show people that everyday individuals who are living lives like most of us do in cities that most of us reside in can go out there and have an incredible experience and come back to their lives and better their lives
Yeah.
in that sense. And I wanted to give the 15-year-old me, the 20-year-old me, the 30-year-old me the opportunity to to find that and to take that right turn and feel like there's a space out there for me that I can go to that's very tangible. It's not just a philosophical idea. I can go on LHO's website, I can chat with somebody directly, I can have my questions answered, I can understand what it is I'm getting myself involved with, I can be guided to something that fits what I'm looking for, more effectively. And then I get surrounded by a community that cares about what happens to me even after I finish the trip. Like that's the thing about us. We're, 50% of people come back for a second trip within the same 365 days. Like
That's amazing.
that because it's not about like I don't care about your money.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, the trips are expensive, yes, but it's not about the money for us. It's about you. It's about what
Changing lives.
It's about changing lives. It's about you coming back and telling me, you know what, I had an amazing moment. I had an amazing experience at Kilimanjaro. I want to come back with my kids because I want them to share this thing with me. I want to go and explore the Northern Lights and bring my kids, or I want to bring my friend or my girlfriend or my husband or my wife or my mom. I mean, I've had guys bring their mothers and girls bring their mothers and fathers to go climb. I had a trip where I had 2 father-daughter couples on the Tour de Mont Blanc like 2 years ago.
That's unique. Like as we mentioned, it's opportunity, once in a life opportunity. How many times can you go in a mountain with your father, or for the father with the daughter as well, right? Like that's experience that is gonna be unforgettable for them.
100%.
There's no price, no money in the world that can buy that.
100%.
And you making that happen.
Thank God, man. Thank God. That's all I can say. Thank God.
No, it's very well done. As I met you 2017, so you're just starting, and what you have created, the trips you have done. I still need to do one.
Yes.
That's on my bucket list.
Before this episode airs.
To finalize, I will throw you 5 words.
Okay.
And then you give me back 1 word or 1 phrase, what that means to you.
Okay.
Okay. Family.
Everything.
Skiing.
Passion.
Life happens outdoors.
My baby.
The mountains.
Life.
Next trip.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go and disappear somewhere for a little while and just find myself a little bit. One of the things is when you work in this space, you also sometimes a little bit, you lose touch with the space that's also for you. And actually I'm heading out on the 20th for my first holiday in the mountains since since 2018. It's the first time that I go just to be me for a little bit. And so I'm going on my own. I'm going just to reconnect, rewire myself as well, be alone a little bit and just have no expectations.
Nice.
See where it goes. We'll see.
Amazing. Not a bad holiday, huh? In the mountains.
Absolutely.
And to finalize, just a message I would say for the parents and their kids, and maybe for your parents as well. I think would be one message for all, that how you're changing life, how you change your life, and how people can change others' life.
Look, I don't have kids. I'd love to have kids, but I don't have kids right now. And I can't imagine for a second how difficult it is these days, with social media, with protecting, your kids from so many things that are out there and from so many things that they're exposed to that I wasn't exposed to, when I was a kid. So I understand how scary that can be. And I can also understand how scary it is to let your kids go out there and experience things that you don't have control over. Only thing I can say is that having the space to make mistakes was one of the most important factors in my life that has led me to who I am today. And my parents maybe were even ahead of their time with that, in the sense that they understood that I should make mistakes, and some of them can be even quite challenging, but that it's better I make these mistakes and I go out and I explore the world when I still have them around to help me out when I'm not able to find my way back. And so you can take that and apply it to everything. If your kid falls over, it's okay. Scratched his leg. I broke my leg 5 times. I'm fine. You know, kids grow. They're resilient that way. They're not happy with the sport because they're losing. It's okay. Let them learn to lose. Let them learn to win. You know, sometimes learning to win is harder than learning to lose. You know? Let them say the wrong things and make the mistakes. Doesn't mean give them a free pass. No, don't give them a free pass. But don't get upset that they did that. Kids are kids, and they're learning. And part of learning is making mistakes and falling on their asses and getting back up again. So just give them the space. Let them go and try things that they don't like, and let them get upset. I cried. Oh my God. I remember one time we were in bad weather and I was skiing, and I was so upset that my dad made me ski that day. And I cried my eyes out, and he just came up to me and he said,
go again.
100%. When I broke my leg first time, I was 5 years old. The first thing he said to me was, this is part of the game. And it's true. It's part of the game. Sure. And we're all going to hurt ourselves. So let's learn to fall down. Let's learn to stand back up again. And I think the best thing that parents can do for their kids is to teach them how to fall, teach them how to stand up again, teach them how to lose, teach them how to win.
Perfect. Strong message. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And well done with everything you have been doing for the community, changing lives for better. And soon I will book my trip.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Man, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Very strong and powerful message from Ramy. As you can see, he's changing lives. You can change yours as well. Just keep climbing in life and good things will happen. If you like this episode, share with friends, family, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.